Welcome to this Newmarket School Board meeting on August 20th, 2026. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. We'll start with public comment. If any residents of the public would like to offer any comments on agenda items. I will also close public comment at 5:16 and move on to public correspondence. We did receive one piece of correspondence just regarding the joint town council school board meeting, just making people aware that it was happening and that some people were waiting quite some time and excited that it was taking place. Great. Moving on to board comments and committee updates. I can start with the fact that Todd and I attended the first SST governing board meeting earlier this week for the school year. And just getting an update on enrollment, programming, a few new staff members, teachers, and their electrical program up and running. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's full
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, at capacity. So
Wow.
CIP committees starting up first meeting will be on the 27th at 5 p.m. in the auditorium downstairs at Town Hall. So come on down.
What date is that again?
The first one's the 27th. Second one's the September 2nd. It shows 5 a.m. I'm presuming they meant 5 p.m. And then the third is on the 9th.
Oh, Bart's an early riser, so it probably is 5
It
a.m.
might be 5 a.m.
Yeah.
All right. Get it over with.
And I would like to give a huge shout out to the Newmarket Junior Senior High School for their ranking in the USA Today High Schools of 18th place in the state. If you've seen that,
Yeah,
and that's
great.
pretty darn good. So right up there. Thank you to everybody who's made that happen. And I think that's all I have.
on that note, we were just briefly chatting earlier about on another platform ranking 11th best school district for people wanting to live here for a school district in the state. In the state?
Great.
Is that right? Okay. Anything else? Nope. All right. Moving on to the superintendent report.
Well, thank you. First off, I just want to mention that Patty's here tonight, but she spent 2 days this week doing all of our new staff orientation. Patty, can you remind me how many new staff do we have coming in this year? 10 professional staff. So Patty facilitates the program. They all came in, had 2 days. They spent quite a bit of time with all the different employees of the district, learning about different roles and so forth, and then get connected up with their mentors, which are assigned to them. And they typically a new staff member is going to have a mentor for 5 years to kind of help them sort of grow and develop. So it's very exciting. Always great to see the happy, excited faces of new educators, mixed with a number of staff that are familiar faces that have been in the community and just have been waiting for an opportunity to jump ship and come to Newmarket, and an opportunity came up. So it's actually quite nice to see. So we're so we have 10 new staff, very energetic group. Second thing I wanted to mention, I had hoped to be able to take you on a tour of the STEAM classroom, the renovated shop space, and I could do that after the meeting tonight, except you would see an open space. The equipment that will make it what it is not been delivered yet. So I will certainly, I'm happy to walk people through. At this point, we have put in the half wall that divides the steam space from the traditional wood shop area. We have the auction house that you guys approved for us to have to sell the remaining equipment, has taken all of the equipment that is resaleable. And then Dave Riley and his team have done some reorganizing. And we're hoping that very shortly we'll be able to move all the robotics stuff into what had formerly been the wood storage space. So it will be reorganized. And then we're told the furniture is arriving like August 31, something like that. I if you've had anything to do with shipping of large orders of things like furniture, it can be challenging these days with some of the shipping constraints. Our stuff, a lot of school furniture comes from China, things like that. So it's Strait of Hormuz and all those things are playing a role. So we're hopeful that we'll get it soon, but right now they just keep giving us the any day now. And so hopefully that will be, and as soon as it's there, I promise you we'll go in and bask in the glory of the new space. Next thing I wanted to mention is Patty, Erica, and I met with a Hampshire Registered Educators Apprentice Program. And we have, just to remind you, during the contract negotiations with the paras, we have worked in some professional development opportunities and also some pathways for people to improve themselves through credentialing. And so this is going to be something that we're going to work with. It's one of the avenues we're going to work to try to give people an opportunity to come here and aspire to something more than the role they were hired at. One of the new staff, which we welcomed, was Maggie Daly Dolph, who was one of our paras for a long time, who probably would have benefited a lot from a program like New Hampshire REAP because it took her a while to finish the program. But being able to hire people into teaching positions is a pipeline that would be very beneficial to us. So if you can imagine having people sort of waiting in the wings, knowing our culture, knowing our schools, but also pursuing a credential in science or special education or whatever. So anyway, it's an exciting thing. We're hopeful that will take off, but it's just one of the avenues that we're approaching, and I feel pretty good that there's some great things that are going to happen for our para group. And kind of speaking of like meetings that I've had recently, I reached out to, I think I mentioned this last time, I reached out to Dave Cartoonin, the gentleman from cartoon.com, who does our budget videos every year, suggesting to him that it would be great if we could have somebody pull something together to help educate people about the HB 1300, which is the tax cap law that was passed. So he organized a meeting that I was invited to with Mark McLean, the executive director of the NHSAA, Jerry Frew, the assistant director, and a few other superintendents to just brainstorm and talk about what would be beneficial to them in terms of trying to come up with some metrics that would be good, that could be transferable across the state, that every district could take a look at. I'll tell you, I'm going to share with you later on in this meeting a document that Bryant Lee and I worked together to pull together. I shared that with the group and everybody got very excited. So I suspect that that's going to be formative in terms of whatever they come up with. But it was actually kind of funny when I started talking about the what if questions, like what if the state had fully funded an adequacy aid all these years? What would that mean? And when we started doing the math on it, everybody was like, "Oh my God, you're right. It was like 400,000 or 500,000 every year." And so it's something that's worth pointing out so people understand that while we have to acknowledge taxes are going up and school budgets make up a significant portion of local property tax, a big part of it is the shifting of the responsibility onto the taxpayer. I don't know if you guys remember back in 23, 24, when the story of our budget was we got shorted by $466,000 in adequacy aid, and they increased swept tax by $566,000, effectively saying to Newmarket, here, pay an extra $1 million for your schools. Well, we didn't do anything different. That was the states shifting things around. So anyway, we spent a lot of time on that, and I'm excited. I think there's going to be some really good informative stuff coming out of that. And the best part will be the NHSAA will pay for it and we can benefit from it. And the last thing I want to mention, just because I think it's kind of important, it's the work we do. School starts next week. Teachers are welcome back on Monday. We have an opening breakfast at 7:30, and then at 8 o'clock we'll just have our opening. Bonnie, thank you for joining us to welcome the staff back. And then for all those kids and parents listening, just a reminder, August 27th, Thursday, is the first day back to school for students. And I think, I think we're in a really good place. We're fully staffed. We got lots of really good stuff happening. So we're just waiting for the kids to come back. So anyway, that's my report.
All right. We'd like to invite up for our first discussion presentation is the handbooks, the elementary school and junior senior high school 2026, 2027 handbooks.
So which of you gentlemen would like to go first?
Mr. Pine?
Yeah.
Yes. Hello, how's everyone this evening?
Good. You ready for those?
We are ready. We
Rascals.
are ready to roll and empty the last couple pallets of my view literacy book today. So I got a good workout as I was waiting for the board meeting. But just to let you know, we did do some updates to our handbook throughout the year. I think one of the things I'd like to know to the general public that it's in the handbook. It was also in my letter is that we have changed our school hours a little bit this year. School's we're gonna do it 8:30 to 8:40 drop off in the morning. And with school officially starting kind of at that 8:40 time. And then school is going to dismiss at 3:05 this year. That gaining of just that 10 minutes is just to kind of extend our schedule a little bit, pick up about 50 minutes a week or so of extra instructional time, smoother transitions at the end of the day as well. One of the unique features this year as well is that all our buses, we have arranged for busing to come at one period at time. So we won't be doing a second run for the rec bus. We've incorporated the rec students onto the route for bus 6. Knock on wood, we're good to go with that. And yes, will there be some hiccups? Of course, it's the start of every school year, but we're ready for those hiccups as well. And we just spoke with the rec department today, kind of clarifying the steps that we'll be taking and working together. So just kind of a sidebar that's not reflected in the handbook
And
itself.
you know how much I like math. Just
Yes.
adding 10 minutes every day, you have effectively added 30 hours of instructional time over the course of the year. So
Right. Yeah.
it's a small change on a daily basis, but over the course of a year, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. So it will be a good addition of time for us as well. In terms of the handbook, I made the kind of regular adjustments to the principal's letter. I also took some time. You'll see if you're thumbing through for your reading pleasure. We added the school's mission statement on the top of page 6. That was something that we developed through our work with John Vander Els, and the staff developed that. Thought it was important to get in there. I did a lot of updating of language, in particular on topics of like recess, our dress code, just to kind of clarify those sort of things for parents. A little ambiguity, I thought, in the original thing and in the original document I was working with. We also added our mini mule mindset into our student conduct. This is something that we're going to be doing this year as part of our MTSSB, and also ties into our Kokori program that the kids will be in all classrooms will be participating in this year. Is we have an idea of mini mule mindset, and it talks about behavior in school, behavior in the hallways, behavior in the lunchroom. So we're all having those same expectations. So there's easy clarity and understanding for the kids. So that conduct part up there just has the outline of the mini mule mindset for you there. I did also update the kind of the health service page a little bit under the section of when you should keep your child at home, and clarified why we should do that. It was very wordy, and I wanted to make it simple. And I think it's got a lot more clarity to it. Also updated the food service sections that reflect the programming for applying for free and reduced lunch with the current numbers that needed to be there. And then, of course, calendars, important dates, that sort of thing have all been updated as well. But that's pretty much the elementary handbook in a nutshell.
Questions, anybody?
Come on down and see our mini mule mindset. And we've did a great job with the MTSSB committee. And we've have posters we're giving to all the kids in the classrooms, in the common areas, that sort of thing. And also our mission, vision, and value statement posters are going to be provided to all teachers to have them in the classrooms as well. So
Can you just quickly remind, you mentioned
Sure.
Kokori, just remind
Sure.
people what Kokori is?
yeah, Kokori is part of the some teachers were piloting this. It's a digital platform in which they talk about particular themes each day, and like a theme for the month and then themes for the day. It's about really building community and again setting those expectations and interactions with your peers, interactions with your teachers. We're getting trained officially on Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning, excuse me. But we had a number of teachers pilot it last year, and they were all in for it. And we're looking forward to getting that under our belt. And what's really nice about it is all teachers, even if you don't have a typical classroom like our UA teachers, our case manager, everything, we're all going to be involved with this. So we're all have the same theme, ideas, and approaches of working with the kids and know the expectations that the kids are learning about in each of those lessons. It's about a 25-minute kind of classroom community building activities each morning that they'll be doing. So it's a great program. We're looking forward to it.
And is that, I mean, it just ties in, I think, really perfectly with um, the assemblies on the theme of the month and the students of the month and being nominated. I
Yep.
know that
We're
both my kids could tell me exactly who was nominated for
Right.
what and what the theme was. And then those tie in, I feel like, seamlessly with the you know, the pillars, if you will, of like vision of a graduate, like everything kind of
Correct.
just
Yeah, exactly. And we'll still be doing monthly assemblies each month based on those themes. And the hope is that each grade level will take on an assembly as well and present something that they're either doing as a grade level or something related to the theme in general. So to showcase the work that the kids are doing, but also still to highlight those kids that have been, you know, caught by their peers, caught by their teachers, upholding those themes of the month and the values of the school.
I think it's great.
Exciting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next time, Andy's going to go first.
Good evening, everyone. You have a copy of our handbook here. Similar to Sean, this is not a wholesale rewrite or anything. We're not reinventing the wheel. We went through the annual housekeeping updates of calendars and meal information just to make sure those are updated. Some new sections or new things to highlight. This time last year, if you remember, we were still worried about cell phones. So the language in the original was in the 25-26 was very vague on purpose because we weren't 100% sure where we were going. So then this version, we have a whole substantive section on cell phones that outlines our policy and our procedures of off and away, something that we highlighted in our letters out to both middle school and high school, but it is spelling it out in writing again. Similar to what we did with the program of studies. If you remember, we'd had the one version of program of studies for our current freshmen and one for everyone else. We continued that highlighting differences between graduation requirements for 27 to 29, and then class of 30 and beyond, just again on that changes to the 306s and the additional coursework. Clarified some things around honor roll, incompletes, makeup work, and one of our biggest issues was incompletes, clarifying for staff how long things are. We found that we had incompletes hanging over for multiple months, and that's not the purpose of an incomplete. So we clarified some of that language. We are also, with the help of Patty and the task force, clarified some language on artificial intelligence and the use of it within the classroom. And the other big one, which several people a year always come to me with lots of frustrations about, are the electric scooters and e-bikes. We do have a population of mostly middle school, early high school, mostly boys that ride scooters or e-bikes to school. So we put some language in there around safety and how they should and shouldn't be using them. To be honest, Rich McFadden and I are usually out front, Jay's out back. We do try to address these kids if we see something pretty quickly, but putting it in writing to have that piece to say, hey, this is what's happening, to make sure we all are on the same page is a big update for us this year. Other than that, I learned a long time ago, one of the tricks to the administrative world is if you print this on day one and leave a copy in your desk, anytime something comes up, you go to it and you just make notes on it. So Jay and I have last year's, and the first thing we do on July 1st is take it out and go, what did I write? Oh, why isn't this working? And it's a nice way to continue to update. So a lot of these updates, a lot of the changes come from real world. Something happened or something didn't make sense or that's not clear. So that's literally one of the first things we do once July rolls around is take out the old ones and go page by page through. So the big ones I would highlight again, cell phones and the scooters and e-bikes, because those are some hot button topics for us. Yes, ma'am.
Page 31. I think we need an A- under the
Thank you.
grading system. I did not go through this with a fine-tooth comb. It's just that popped out.
Clearly.
Get the grades.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Those things happen. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was only because it's my I don't know, obsession with the state legislature. And with some particular representatives. But there's a bill about absenteeism that was passed. I don't know if you know about that one. It is HB 1573. And it is probably something that you ought to have on your list. It's it officially became law in July 2026, requires public and public charter schools to grant excused absences to students participating in civic engagement in career and technical education.
Yep.
And in looking over the most of these absentee, they would cover that anyway.
Yep.
But I believe that this particular representative had an issue. He's
Sometimes
he
that
had an
happens
issue
in
when he
Concord.
was in high school that he couldn't go. He was running.
Couldn't go
state
for something.
legislature.
Sure.
That's so. It would cover civic events, youth advisory councils, CTE events, and it does not mandate excused absences for political rallies, protest demonstrations, or anything like that. And there's a requirement in there for parents and students to, and I noticed in your policy that there is a parental form they have to fill out. So that's just something for you to review.
Excellent.
To
And
make
it's
sure that
Yeah.
just to double, it's 1573.
1573,
Thank
yes.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that one. I just there were I was on a meeting the other day and there were 110 bills passed and signed in July and August that impact public education. So that's one of the new trends
Oh,
is
yeah.
flood the zone with lots of things, and so it is challenging. So I had seen that one, and my immediate read on it was I think we're okay. So
Oh,
it hadn't risen to my concern.
Mhm.
I do agree with you, though, that a lot of times the legislation that is getting passed or promoted, somebody has a particular experience with something and thinks a law needs to be passed for the whole state. And it's like, you had one bad experience in your local district, talk to them. Don't
Yeah.
change the rules for
Yeah.
everybody.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, we'll definitely take a
We'll
look
do
at that.
I thought that would be worth
Absolutely.
looking at so that you weren't caught short with.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And of course, I could go on about a million other things, but it's not the place.
We follow the law, Kathy. We follow the law.
Anyone else?
We do.
We try to.
We try. Try.
Hmm.
Learned a long time ago from a really good administrator. He goes, "Here's a trick. Keep the notes."
I guess the only thing I might point out, is the elementary school has as well, but for accessibility purposes, the black on red may not be the best color combination. I don't know for sure.
You don't like our colors? Is that what I hear?
I am fine with it. My
See,
teams are doing a lot of work recently on accessible
And-
websites, and
Yes,
because of that, I've become sensitive to color combinations.
I gotcha.
That's a good
We'll
point.
double check it for accessibility. Thank you.
Where? Are you ready for your new middle schoolers?
One particular movement. No, we are ready for all our new middle schoolers. Yes, we're very excited. And I ran into looked like girls varsity soccer a few minutes ago. They are all pumped up out there. So both ends of the spectrum are ready to come back, I think. The
And I
energies
did see, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I did see one of your soon to be alum
No,
from the top 10 before the last meeting, and she was writing out her thank you cards for graduation and giving me some updates on getting ready to go to school, and it just again reminded me of the kind of kids that come out of these schools. They're just able to have such a polite you know uh eloquent conversation with somebody, and um the fact that she's right
handwriting.
taking
Thank you.
time handwriting out
That's awesome.
thank you notes. It's just
We've got great kids, so we're really happy with that. Awesome. Thank
Okay,
you.
this is a silly thing, but
Yes.
page 51 in the PDF, it looks like it's just a blank white page. So I imagine it was just something formatting wise that got pushed off, but
Yes. Thank you.
And the beauty of our handbooks is they are digital, so we can make real-time
the
adjustments.
changes.
In fact,
nice.
assuming you adopt policy JICK, which is the new bullying, that'll immediately show up in the new handbook.
Jay and I are on that at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Good luck.
It is, I'm not, I'm not going to be on this correctly, but the mission statement and the is involved in changing world.
Mhm. Hey, Sean, can you take a look at the wording of the mission statement? There might be a grammatical error there that needs to be addressed. Yep.
so gently.
Being a late teacher, yeah. All right. Thank you. All right, next up, we have our assistant superintendent, curriculum director. Great.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you.
Hello.
So today I'm here to just kind of recap the goal development process here in the district. And we're always excited in the spring when and or if there is a new school board member voted in, that we hold a retreat in the spring for our new board members and current board members to meet all the district administrators and SAU. And we have a lovely few hours and breakfast in the morning. And that really sets the stage for talking for the board anyway, a newly formed board, to talk about their goals and to kind of brainstorm those goals and to talk about them, form them, and then going on to adopt those goals at a board meeting. And then from there, once the board adopts their goals, they're given to the school district leadership teams, and we have a summer retreat, and we read through your goals, and that really helps us form our goals, meaning the school district goals, NES goals, and the junior senior high goals. And I know, repeating myself a little bit here, but in 2023, the junior senior high, they developed their growth plan as an outcome of the NEASC accreditation process. And then the following year, 2024, the elementary school developed their growth plan that really aligns nicely with what the work from the junior senior high. And of course, every year as a school, those growth plans are reviewed by really a collaborative group of educators, what we call a guiding coalition. That oftentimes, like quick example I can give is the CORI, the new social emotional learning platform, curriculum, that all was presented to the Guiding Coalition. They had a pilot. So there's such a process now, which is really nice that anything that happens in the school, it's a collaborative process where teachers are able to kind of take in that information, absorb it, ask questions about it, maybe go back to review and research a little bit before a full implementation is done. Because what we know is if we just buy it and implement it without that background experiences that we all need, it will probably end up on a shelf in a closet somewhere, and we don't want that to happen. So when we have the investment of all educators, it's much more successful that way. So some action items are then identified to advance our district goals. And the district and the building level goals, they're also tied to our new teacher evaluation model. We had a couple little tweaks. The evaluation committee, educator evaluation committee met over the summer. We had a couple little tweaks and nothing huge or major, just some dates changing because we sent out a survey to get everyone's feedback, teachers and administrators. And then as a result of that, we had some little tweaks in the program. So as we look to the future, the district, we're going to further align our elementary, middle, high school growth plans. So now I'm going to break it up. And I know this is a brief version, I guess, of the school board goals. I know it's much more detailed than that, but the big picture for a community that might be watching at home, the Newmarket School Board is has a goal to strengthen student voice and engagement, to expand and utilize alumni and student feedback data. I'm really excited that we our alumni received a survey in the spring. To increase positive district communication and community engagement. I think a good example of working toward that was the dunk tank, probably at the bash and the spinner, right? You guys are already on your goals. And then also develop a community engagement and communication plan for the junior high to become a middle school, Newmarket Middle Senior High School. And I know that they're excited about that. You'll see that further in their goals. For a school district, our first goal is to really look at competency alignment. We did a lot of fantastic work last year in grades 6 through 12. We're going to really excited to continue that work K-5. So we have full K-12 alignment within a competency framework and outlining what those student progressions look like as well. Also, we're excited that we've welcomed aboard our MTSB district coordinator, Erica Brazzi, which supports our whole child MTSS goal, really scaling those multi-tiered systems of support to focus on the academic, but also the social, emotional, instructional practices and behaviors as well within that. About the AI integration, we have Jason Carey and I have formed an AI task force made up of elementary, middle, high school educators, and we're going to develop a roadmap for the ethical and practical implications of AI teaching and learning. And we're at the very beginning stages. The first thing we want to do is develop a vision and a mission statement, and then go from there. And then lastly, as a district, our goal is to be transparent in our communication. We want to strengthen that feedback loop between the SAU, our schools, and our broader community as well. It's our district. And then moving to our elementary school, connected to their growth plan, they will be developing common formative assessments. A formative assessment, if you're not familiar with that term, formative, think of it almost as a quiz. And formative, I like to take the word form from there, and a formative informs a student of their learning at that time of the teacher instruction, but informative also is informing the teacher of their instruction. And I know I make people crazy when I say, well, a summative is also a formative because a summative informs. All the kids did at the end. But anyway, they will be looking at really, it's important that we have common assessments for our students because that is what addresses equity and equitable instruction and learning for all of our students. And if we have one classroom give one assessment and another classroom give another assessment, and we're assessing different types or we're grading on a different scale, it doesn't help the next year's teacher when that student goes there. So that's really important that our educators are working on that. They're also expanding their tier 2 supports at the elementary school. So really identifying what are those interventions and or enrichment that we need to be providing for our students based on the data that we're collecting in our classrooms and assessments. The elementary school is going to be working also on developing their grade level competencies and learning progression. So that is new for them this year. So we're hopeful by June we'll have a full K-12 and then be able to post that on our website as well. As you know, we put a little brief pause on our report card committee because of all the work that was happening and new learning as a result that was happening. So we're excited to kind of get back into those report card revisions, and really a big goal is to come to you in the spring with hopefully a finalized version, but if the teachers aren't ready, that's okay too. But a goal is to come with a finalized version. And then lastly, you heard Sean talk about Kikori, that new SEL program that is the teachers will have training on next Tuesday. And that will help to support the implementation of a school-wide behavior expectations and also under that MTSSB umbrella. That's the elementary school. And then lastly, our junior, senior high school, soon to be a middle school. The very first thing they want to do is establish a timeline of switching that name from junior high to middle school. One of the things that Andy's been doing with his team is this year they will have separate staff meetings. So the middle school will meet separately than the high school educators to really allow for middle school specific conversations. They are different, a different school. It's 2 schools within 1 building. Continuing to build or like maybe a little bit more of a focus build of a schedule that allows for unified arts teachers to be just at the middle school. It is daunting and really hard work. You know, being a former middle school administrator like Todd, the schedules are kind of the bane of our existence, aren't they, Andy? And particularly when you have a middle school and a high school in 1 building, and you're sharing lunches and 1 gymnasium, right? 1 cafeteria, 12-year-olds to 18-year-olds. So you have to be really mindful and thoughtful of that. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and it takes a lot of iterations as well, and trial and error along the way. But their goal is to present and have middle school educators come here and present to you maybe in the January or February board meeting to present that middle school name change. And then from there have a developed plan of how we inform our community as well. And that will be exciting. The junior senior high are also going to take a little look again at their vision of a graduate. When that was written 5 years ago, through the NEASC accreditation process, you think in 5 years how our world has changed, and just the having AI at our fingertips. Immediately, there's that Gemini. It's right there. When kids go to Google, now it's there. And so that does kind of impact a vision, right? We need to, and it's healthy just to reread it. And what still speaks to us, what might we want to edit a little bit or take away or add. And that's really up for the teachers to do that work. And we also want to broaden the scope of that graduate of really pre-K-12. And because the NEASC really pushed us, and Andy, Todd, and I were all new that year as well, we just didn't have that opportunity to hear the voices as often as we would, or create a committee of pre-K-12. So that's really the goal as well, is to create a new committee of folks looking at our vision. And then presented, of course, the same type of I guess, plan to present to the community and get our community's feedback as well. That was really successful 5 years ago when we did that. And then lastly, Andy's and his educators, they further developed the work of competencies for alignment across the program. Teachers teach several units in a year, and it takes some time to do all of that work for each of their units. And for the high school, for the middle school, they are going to be focused on something new this year on project-based learning, which are interdisciplinary or integrated units within the team. And what might that look like? So they'll be working with some consultants from NHLI. I think it's Barry Boyer, who is kind of one of those experts in the field of project-based learning. And so they are excited to kind of take on that work. And that was it.
So those are, gives you kind of a continuum of all of the focus points that the district is working on.
Yep.
I think the thing I want to emphasize is that we started with your goals and
Yeah.
then we took the growth plans that already existed. We did a deep dive into it over the summer and identified actionable things that we are going to do to move the process forward. And hopefully you've seen a number of the things that you had suggested as things you'd like to see showing up in different places in our action items as
Yeah.
well. So, questions or thoughts?
I did want to say just thank you for pointing that out and you bringing it up because I think it helps the board realize kind of maybe the importance of our goals and that people are listening, whether or not we realize it when we're chewing the fat around the table here, but it does have a real impact on what happens
It does.
further down. So
Yep.
it's helpful to understand that and
Yep.
see it in action.
Yes. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I wish you could clone this whole thing and just spread it out to all of the other districts around the state, because
I think you'd have to clone all the staff. I
yes,
think we're
that-
lucky in that
right,
regard.
right, that's exactly it, because that's pretty exciting. And just to see the last thing, project-based learning, boy, does
I
that,
knew you'd like that, Kathy.
boy, does that bring it back. Does that
Well,
bring it
Yeah.
I think it's also worth noting that that came from requests from the staff, expressing interest in pursuing that.
Mhm.
I mean, we had lots of conversations about what
Yeah.
middle school was, but it was really staff
Yeah.
initiated the idea of diving into
That's good.
project-based
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah.
And you listened, which was nice.
Exactly. To give them the support
Yeah,
they need. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome. You wanna just click out of here. Oh,
Yep, I got it.
All right. Equally as exciting.
JICK.
The policy JICK, which was Todd had emailed out. If people got a chance to look at it, although I think context that we're gonna get is gonna really help us to understand.
Exactly. So let me just kind of give you sort of the broad overview. I'm going to just say up front, this is an unorthodox way to do policy. I don't like this. This is the second year in a row where legislative changes have put us in sort of a defensive posture because they came about so late in the game. There was no time to really analyze things. So basically what has happened is Governor Ayotte signed into law HB 131, which created requirements that required us to modify policy JICK. Because it went into effect on August 1, we have to simultaneously be in compliance and do a policy review process. So just full acknowledgement here, this is unorthodox. Once, assuming the board is agreeable to this, we would adopt it tonight. And then the policy committee next week would start working on making revisions that are more in line with the Newmarket school culture. Basically what you have in front of you as the proposed revised policy is straight from the New Hampshire School Board Association, and they're recommending that we adopt it because it fully complies with the law. Now, I know typically when we do policy development, we have what's called the red line version, and it's easy to spot the new, but if you look at the two, they're just structurally different. And so doing redlining, I could have redlined the entire policy, but that wouldn't have helped you. So let me just kind of run through with you what are the big changes here that we need to account for. The first one is one that doesn't kick into effect until January 1, 2027, but it requires the district to publish a report that shows how we integrate school curriculum, discipline, behavioral management, and violence prevention into our program and show how all those things are integrated. So we have a responsibility to develop that. I'm confident we do all that, but to articulate it in a formal report is going to take some work. And that's something I need to get people working on ASAP, because by January 1 of this next year, it has to be published on our website for people to see. So that's a big thing. A second change is it's expanded the definitions. If you look at the two side by side, in the current policy, there's like 4 or 5 terms. In the new one, there's a lot more terms. There's like 13 or 14 definitions that are included. mean, I don't want to get editorializing why certain terms were added and so forth, but there's a wider range of terminology. Third thing that is noteworthy is it incorporates the new, actually, we adopted the EHAG last time, the AI policy. It incorporates EHAG into the student bullying harassment policy. Obviously, there is a cyber, a technology component to bullying and harassment, and so that's incorporated. Beyond that, it expands procedural guidance for investigators and complainants. So it gives us a little more, it changes the process a little bit, but it gives a little more a direction for how the process must play out. I will tell you in my read of it, and again, we're complying with the law. I do think it does, it gives more protection to potential perpetrators. In other words, the process requires more documentation and more comprehended. But that's because of the law that they're doing there. And then lastly, and this kind of ties into the whole thing about protecting perpetrators. There's a whole section on false reporting and what false reporting can result in disciplinary consequences. So there's a section on that. I do think it's really going to be important that the policy committee spend some time looking at it, making this policy ultimately align with our culture and school climate and the things that we want to do. But the recommendation from the Hampshire School Board Association is adopt this right now and then immediately dive into a revision process. And again, policy committee meets next Thursday, August 27th at 4:00. And if you want to join for that conversation, you're welcome.
Do we bring lunch, supper?
Well, we're not going to solve it all in one meeting.
No.
Because I do think there's a lot there. One of the things you realize when you look at JICK is there's lots of policies there's a lot of integration of policies. There's a lot there. And so it isn't a simple like, okay, we'll sit down in one meeting and we'll crank it out. I think we have to spend some time with it. But the message I would give to you is the reason for asking for the waiving of the first and second read is this will make us compliant for the start of school. I assure you, if you decide not to pass this tonight, which is your choice, we will still be compliant with the law because we have to be. Questions or?
You sort of answered the one question that I had that was about the disciplinary action that would be taken for, false accusations. And I guess I'm thinking of it from a elementary school teacher standpoint. Obviously there would need to be different types of responses, but I just think about little kids who may report something that, it's a tricky word because clearly we need a full glossary of definitions.
Right. I think, right. And I think actually one of the things this will probably motivate us to do administratively is to spend some time talking about the definitions. And in particular, the term bullying is one of the most widely used, but probably misunderstood terms because there's a legal definition and then there's the tone that people feel when when mean-spirited behavior is happening. It's natural to immediately try to put that into the camp of that's bullying and harassment or whatever. And I think this kind of challenges us to think about, okay, what are the buckets that goes into? And I do want to emphasize when I say that it's not because I'm callous about when things happen to kids that are mean-spirited and impact their existence in school. Obviously, there's got to be remedies, whether you call it bullying or not. But there is a part of it where you have to say, does this constitute bullying? Because bullying requires a specific act that a person is doing in order to create a climate or a series of acts that create a climate where a person is feeling harassed, and a singular bad act can fit that category, but it doesn't automatically fit that category. And obviously, when you're talking about an individual person who is feeling like the school climate is not happy for them, there can be multiple people that are contributing to it, and it might not be a single individual that's perpetrating. It might be there's a broader climate that exists, and it's not like one person to be held accountable. It's a group of kids are making jokes that make this child feel uncomfortable, that kind of thing. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I assure you, if there was any better way to do it, I wouldn't dump this on you and ask you to approve it sight unseen. But I promise you, we're going to do a deep dive into it, and probably by October, we'll be back to you with some suggested revisions.
Any other questions?
Just as one of two members on the policy committee, is there anything that stuck
Yeah.
out to you all that, so that when we meet next week, that you want us to look more closely at and address? Yeah, okay. Great.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say is, again, perhaps it's because I have just so much more experience. All my experiences with elementary school students. It almost feels like, not that there should be two separate policies, but that there are certain things that are developmentally appropriate and coherent to a kindergartner, and it can. I mean, we all know bullying could happen at any age, but with a first grader versus a seventh grader, and I don't necessarily mean specific like if then statements, but just I guess, is there something in there that talks about the mindset of what's kind of
Well, I feel like that's kind of where we as leaders sort of expect, we need to trust and hope that the implementation of the policies are applicable to the situation,
yeah.
and that, an 8-year-old who says something mean to another kid may not, it may just be
I think
mouthing off at one time because they've had
Yeah.
a fight with the child as opposed to being a bully, and they may get reported as a bully. And I think we just need to hope that the people responsible for implementation.
And I think that's a great point, Gary, because I do think just because you do an investigation and something is designated as fitting the definition of bullying doesn't necessarily mean that a particular consequence is applied. So there's a continuum of potential responses, and those Sean and Andy, they work all the time to try to make sure that they're age appropriate. They try to intervene. I mean, obviously, we're talking about the Fit Quarry program, and the whole idea of that is to try to model for kids what respectful, good, kind communication looks like. So there's the legal, like, does this fit the definition? And just because it doesn't mean you automatically throw the
Yeah.
book at somebody. It could mean, okay, this is a great opportunity for education. This kind of behavior is headed in a very unfortunate direction. How can we help redirect that? And it doesn't have to be just about consequence.
The
I think
nuances, right? That we just,
Yeah.
you can't put in a policy.
I think it's more that the highlighting of false accusations and the reaction to false accusations. I think about little kids who, they can refer to absolutely everything as bullying,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't want the pendulum to swing, and a child, particularly I would think more on the younger side, says, "Oh, well, I said this, and then they told me that it wasn't true, and then I got some sort of consequence for it, so now I'm not going to
I think
say
it's the
anything the
same,
next time," kind of thing.
it's the same implementation. I feel.
Yeah.
That
All those after recess discussions you had to have
Yeah.
as elementary teachers.
I know, but I do agree also that
But
I
really
know
not.
that the elementary school staff is proactive, and I do think that having that review of what it actually means and what constitute that
Yeah.
is going to be really important.
We have to make sure we discern between elementary, age appropriate.
well,
Thank you
not
for asking
age,
that
right?
question.
Age and capacity. Appropriate.
No, that's
There
true.
Yeah.
may be a 15.
Yes, excellent.
Yep. Thank you for asking that, Liz.
Okay, bring those forth.
All right. Budget development. Hard to believe. Actually, it's not hard to believe.
It is, yeah, we're getting there. And actually, budget development has already really begun. We talked about it at the August 5th leadership retreat. I know that all of the different department heads are beginning to think about, okay, what's going to go into the budget. And in about another week, the portal will open up so everybody can start entering all their budget data, but it's the process has already begun. And I won't bore you with all the stuff, but at the joint meeting last week, I talked about some of the challenges we face budgetarily. Obviously, that's true. However, the budget timeline that's in the backup is the one recommended from the Department of Revenue Administration, and it's adapted for us. Really, at this point, there's nothing new in the timeline that hasn't always been there. We're still basically aiming to get our budget finalized before Thanksgiving so that we can then present it to the budget committee in the week or so after the Thanksgiving. And then mid-January-ish is when they start, the budget committee starts meeting. We present our finalized budget. Obviously, there are some law changes that are going to make us present more stuff to the budget committee, but ultimately the timeline's not changing. And Steve mentioned January 30th would be the likely date for the deliberative, with February 6th being sort of the snow date if we have to fall back on it. And the voting would be March 9th. Probably the only thing we need to talk about tonight and begin to think about is how we would like to do the budget workshop. Typically, what we have done in the middle of October, it's usually been we've done it on a Saturday, but it doesn't have to be. We do it on, we need about a half day to have all the department heads come in and just kind of lay out for you all of the budget development and give you a chance to kind of understand what we're requesting, kind of weigh in, ask your questions. So we probably need to start thinking about when would we like to do it. Like I say, typically it's the Saturday after Columbus Day that we've done, like October 15, 16 or something like that. No magic to that, other than that's about the middle of October. But it's some point, probably in the next meeting or so, we should pick a date and be ready to lock in on it. We could, by the way, I've suggested before, we could do it as an evening thing if people would prefer that. We could do like a 4 to 8 thing. I know Andy loves to spend time talking budgets in the evening. I mean, if I had $1 for every time Andy says, "Can I go to another evening meeting?" No. It's almost as often as he asked to go to Saturday meetings, I think. Yeah. Either way. But anyway, we could do that. So and I think we did it that way once, where we did like a 4 to 8, ordered out for pizza or something, and then just cranked through and did it that way. So just throw that out for you. That's the one thing we got to start thinking about.
Just offhand, is there anybody who has like a very specific can't be here on that date weekend, or really don't love the idea of one or the other? Just that we start to
I know I'm open for whatever works best for I think probably the administrators, unless there is someone specific that has a particular.
Yeah.
we wouldn't do the holiday weekend. I think we
Yes,
have
that was the one thing Bryant said to me. Can we please not do it on Columbus Day weekend? That was the only thing that yeah.
We do it on Halloween night.
The 17th would be Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe if
So people are thinking weekends as opposed to weeknight. Is that generally
I'm fine
How do you
with
think
either,
people's
really.
brains are at night to deal with
Fair.
stuff?
fair enough?
It's like all day school, and then I don't even go to school, no matter what I like
But-
between 4 and 8.
if people want to come to the next meeting with I prefer this or that, and then we can
Would you
nail it
want
down.
to go?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I would pull
great idea.
administrative team to say if October 17th of the date, does that work? I'm looking at 2 people right now. I
See
a
how many
thumbs up.
Saturdays they
It's
wanna come.
Yeah.
October 17th, a Saturday. You're taking a hand in about that?
Yeah.
I will make sure to know for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, if they
Yeah,
were
exactly.
for an evening as well.
Or both? Is that what you?
Both. This year we might need both.
Let's
not think about that.
Thank you for doing that.
Yep.
Tax cap vote discussion continued.
Yeah, so going back to July when this started being discussed, Bryant and I have been really trying to kind of talk through ways we can communicate with the community with some fairly graphic talking points to show how we're doing. And so we started working on this and we've been kind of culling it. And I think we are sharing this with you tonight, kind of give you an idea of some of the data that we feel are key talking points when we discuss the tax cap in the community. I would point out at the meeting I mentioned you that I was on with Mark McLean and a few others. I shared this document with them and they got very excited, like, wow, this is a great way to think about it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the communications coming from all over the place similar to this, because to be honest, we're all sort of flying blind right now. Like, how do you talk about this at a time when you don't actually have your budget even remotely developed yet? So anyway, I wanted to kind of walk it through with you and sort of answer your questions about each, because I would like to share this with the budget committee. Their next meeting is, Ryan, are you on the budget committee? Yeah,
I am. I just can't remember off the top
I
of my
think
head.
it's a Monday. Whatever, it's in August, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, so it's 24th then.
Yeah, that'd be,
No, is that right?
I think 31st.
that'd be enough.
I remember saying to myself, it's not the 24th, that's my wedding anniversary. And I was like thrilled that it wasn't that.
Is that why it's the first day of school?
Yeah, because
Or first day back.
everybody has to celebrate my anniversary.
Yeah.
So it must be the 31st.
Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, I wanted to present this to the budget committee because I have gotten a few questions from budget committee members looking for some data to help understand the tax cap. So anyway, I wanted to review it with you.
Have you really?
Yeah.
That's great. No, I'm not being facetious. It's
Yeah.
the fact that they're aware of that and reaching out is fantastic.
Well, I think it is something that what I'm hoping to be able to share information with the budget committee, because as a board, you can't take a position on the tax cap,
Yeah.
but other elected bodies in our community can. And the budget committee and the town council can take positions on it, and that might be something that would help us
Yeah.
moving forward. So anyway, I wanted to share this with you because I don't like to share anything publicly until I've shared it with you, because it's a narrative that I think is worth telling. So basically what we did was we put together 5 sort of graphs to kind of give you an indication of how things are going. The first one basically is looking at if the tax cap had been in effect for the last 5 years, how would we do? And I'm going to say, and the smallness of this graph makes the lines kind of blur together, but the top lines, the green and the orange, the top, there's the tax cap and our budget, and the fact that they are overlapping each other tells you that we have done pretty darn well versus the criterion of the tax cap for the last 5 years. To me, the message in that is we're doing pretty well managing the taxpayers' money. The tax cap is not necessary. It would only restrict our ability to make decisions. And then the bottom 2, it shows you the other component of it. Just to remind you, there are 2 parts to the tax cap legislation. One ties to the overall operating budget tied to the consumer price index out of the Northeast region for the month of March. And the other one is a 6% cap on what they call administrative costs. So the bottom 2, you can see they blur together, but it's because we are consistently at or below what would be 6% for our administrative costs, and this is reflected over a 5-year period. So, and up at the top, you can see the numbers that make up that graph that kind of tell you sort of where things are at. So that's graph number 1. Graph number 2, what we tried to do was to take a look at cost per pupil, because that I think is a metric. In fact, it's one of the required data points that we have to share at the on the ballot is cost per pupil, and it's one of the data points that I think it's valid. I think there are some flaws in it as the only measure, particularly in a district like ours where we have a disproportionately high level of bond debt, and I think that's something we have to keep reminding people of. But if you look at this graph, the green line there is the state and the blue line is Newmarket. And what the story to me there is, you can see the lines are closing in on each other. Every year we get a little bit closer. And the data for 25, 26 has not been published yet, but I would envision we continue to get closer because actually one of the kind of neat stories in our district kind of efficiency efforts, we discovered actually Chris Reeves, who's one of our he's our data guy, discovered some anomalies in the way we were tracking attendance data that impacted what they call the average daily membership calculation, which is what cost per pupil is based upon. And just by making some refinements to the way we're tracking the data, we actually improved our average daily membership by over 1% in
Wow.
1 year.
Oh,
And so I would anticipate that will result in our cost per pupil being lower. You may remember last year, our cost per pupil, they recalculated afterwards and it went up very suddenly. And that was partly because of ADM calculation. And I think we've adjusted for where the anomalies were, and we feel pretty confident that we're in a better place with that than we were. So anyway, my point being, I do believe cost per pupil is a metric that we're heading in the right direction. They're closing in on each other. We're not, our cost per pupil is still higher than the state average, but it's important to remind people we have $2.1 million every year in bond debt that we start with, for which we get no state aid at all for. And if you had a chance to check out Mike Cahill's op-ed to the Union Leader, he did cite that and explain that had Newmarket received the level of aid we should have gotten from state aid, we would be getting $630,000 every year that we are not getting. And that translates into a reduced cost. You know,
Well, I mean, what's interesting, I was looking at this earlier and I was thinking the easiest way to solve this is just to encourage people who are upset with cost per pupil to have more children. And then
there you
our
go.
cost per pupil will go way down.
Yeah, well, that's another way to look at it,
Right?
right?
So,
Can I
Um,
ask a quick question?
Sure.
On the chart on under number 1,
Yep.
it looks like the year 2023, 24 was a bit of an
Yep.
anomaly.
Yes, actually, I think it's actually 23, 24 is a significant anomaly. And I think I mentioned it before.
You just, yeah.
The state aid that year
Okay.
was very unkind to Newmarket. We went from receiving over $3 million in adequacy aid to only getting 2.6 million. So we lost 466,000 adequacy aid. At the same time, they increased our swept tax from 1.4 million up to 1.9 million. So we took on 566,000 extra dollars of local swept tax and got less aid, which effectively skewed our efforts by $1 million. One of the things that I'm particularly proud of, though, in that year, despite that, we only had our total budget go up by 5%. And $1 million at that time was 4% of our total budget. So you think about that year, we only had our total budget go up by 1% in order to accommodate shortfalls in revenue. So that to me was, even though it's a little bit of an anomaly, but to me, it was a shining success because it's the best we could have done given the circumstances that were handed to us.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is the right place to do it, but I think people ought to understand what SWEPT is,
I just
because
a little research.
what's that?
I just did a little research too.
Because it's really a local property tax. But the state claims it as part of their
Yeah.
contribution to
Right.
our.
So if I could, yes, SWEPT, for the acronym is Statewide Education Property Tax. And every year the state tells Newmarket, charge people, I think last year was $1.11 on the thousand, charge people $1.11 on the thousand. We're going to call that state, take it out of the left pocket, now put it in the right pocket. It never leaves the town, but it's the people of Newmarket who are paying what is called a state tax. So it is, you can, in fact, you will often hear people say in Newmarket, local schools make up 72% of the budget. Well, 6% of that is theoretically the statewide education property tax.
Right.
So if you take away that, we're only 66%. So it's important that people understand that concept. So there are two forms of aid we get. One is adequacy aid, which is money that comes from sources like the lottery, liquor sales, all the sin taxes that are the things that the state collects money on, and they come back to local schools. That doesn't.
it's like a husband giving a wife $1,000 and then thinking they're $1,000 richer.
Right. Yeah. So
You're not.
That's
right. Exactly.
excellent.
So it is a really,
Or a spouse, I should say.
and it is pointed out that there's been a lot of litigation over it.
Right.
And the state unfortunately has gone through different iterations of their belief of whether they should rely on SWEP or not. I did see that they're suing bringing it back to Supreme Court to try to get Claremont and all those things thrown out.
Get everything. Yeah.
So, bottom line is, I think SWEPT isn't going away anytime soon. But it does make a difference when they increase that because it's money coming right out of the pockets of Newmarket people. And I think people often blame that on the school. And I guess there is a logic in that. I mean, the school cost X and that's how much it costs. And yes, but it is theoretically the state's contribution and it's the way they choose to collect it.
They're taking claim for something that
Yeah.
they never got.
Yeah.
So the third graph, what we were trying to do was one of the narratives that exists in the world that I think is grossly unfair, by the way, but I'm saying it because it's out there. You will hear people say things like, there's a declining enrollment pattern. Why isn't staffing declining at a rate comparable to your declining enrollment? And why aren't we seeing cost per pupil go down the fewer kids we have? There's a lot of reasons that logic is flawed. However, here in Newmarket, this chart is kind of making the point. In 2021-22, we had 1,002 students. In 26-27, we have 990 students. In other words, we have 12 fewer students this year than we had 5 years ago. That works out to approximately 1 child per grade level. When you're talking about potential staffing reductions, I'm sorry, 1 fewer child per grade level is not going to result in any capacity to reduce staff. Now, you'll notice if you look at the 2 lines that are there, there's a green line and a kind of purplish colored line. The green line is the total staffing level in the district. That includes everybody. That includes me, that includes our facilities staff, that includes everybody that works for the district. In 21-22, we had 213 employees in this district. Today, we have 194 employees. That is more than it's like about a 10% reduction in the number of employees. I think it's 9.5%. That's total employees. So we've lost 12 students, but we've reduced staff by over 9% in that same time frame. So you could argue a 1.2% drop in students, but a 9-point-something% drop in staff. So the narrative that we're not making adjustments is simply doesn't apply here. So I think it's important that people know that. In the line below there, we were trying to capture instructional staff that work directly with students. Because the other narrative that people have is that we're wasting money on peripheral staff and we're not adequately staffing our educational staff. But we are, where appropriate, making adjustments as we go. It's important to note that in 2021, 2020, and 2021-22, is right after the pandemic. Newmarket staffed up pretty dramatically to deal with lower numbers because that was part of the pandemic return plan, keeping classroom sizes low. And since that time, we have gradually readjusted and we are back to the staffing level that is necessary to run our school. So basically what it's showing here is our staffing level for instructional student-facing staff. We had 164 in 21-22. We now have 157. So we've dropped by 7 total. So this was to try to say, like, we are consistently, and I tell you guys this every time we do budget development, when we have an open position, we ask the question, does the position as it currently exists is it still needed? If the answer to that question is yes, we fill it. If the answer to that question is no, we then ask a second question. Is there another need that is developed in the system that we would like to use that position to solve that problem? And so we are continuously making those adjustments. In fact, this year, you heard Patty talking about the addition of Erica Brazzi, our new MTSSB coach. We didn't add a staff position. We repurposed a staff position. That's what we did. So it isn't like we're adding all of these additional staff. We're very methodically looking at our needs and adjusting. So this chart really shows you our student enrollments for the last 5 years, while they're lower than they were 10 and 15 years ago, they're pretty darn stable. And so stable enrollment, your staffing level should be roughly stable too. And even with that, we have adjusted in a way that I think is very cost effective. So that's to me, that's what that chart shows you. The next one, the chart 4, what we were trying to capture there is try to help people understand that the consumer price index in and of itself is a useful tool. I think when you're doing household budgets, if someone says, okay, prices are up 4.1%, you can kind of do the math and say, well, yeah, milk costs a little more, my oil costs, and you can make a adjustment. The trouble with schools is that there are certain things that are disproportionately more expensive than the consumer price index, and they make up a very high percentage of our cost. And two particular ones are special education costs and healthcare costs. And by the way, those numbers are the average increase over the last 5 years.
Wow.
So special education costs have averaged going up 6.8% a year for 5 years. Healthcare costs have averaged going up 11.8%. The average consumer price index over that same time period, 4.1%. If you look at the chart, the pie chart below, it shows you those two cost centers, special ed and healthcare. They represent 38% of all of our expenses. So if you apply a 4.1% CPI on everything, effectively what that means is, because you're not going to not do special ed and you're not going to not provide health insurance because those are contractually obligated, you're going to have to cut in that 62%. And that's where all the people are. And it's where this, so when people say you need a tax cap, they need to keep in mind that costs do not grow at a mathematical formula. And I think we try, and I know, in fact, this board has done it. We try to very carefully consider everything that we're doing to make sure that we balance. Like if we know we got an expensive contract coming, we try to adjust for it. If we know that a bus contract is going to be higher, we try to adjust for it. We are very aware of that. But a tax cap takes that ability away in some ways. It forces you into something. And I know Kathy has frequently brought up the Franklin example of over time, it brings you to a place where it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what that chart is intended to show.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that sometimes we spend a little more, maybe over what a tax cap would be, because it's going to save us money in the long run.
Right.
And if you lose that ability, then you're just shooting yourselves in the foot.
So anyway, so that's what that's trying to show. And then the last one is this is one of what I call a what if. Obviously, it's not factual to say that we got shorted by this, but my personal opinion is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you say the CPI should drive everything, then okay, let's have the CPI drive what the state does then.
Right.
Right.
And if the state met and I'm not talking about increasing it. I'm talking about go back to 21, 22. What were they giving us? Apply the CPI to that. And if you look at it, you can see the blue line is what we actually received, and the orange line is what we should have received. Up above, you can see each year what the differential is. So for 23, 24, the year I was just telling you about, that's $606,000 that we didn't get. The following year, it's $306,000 that we didn't get. The next year is $462,000 that we didn't get. And this year, $424,000 that we didn't get. And the thing that people have to understand is the cost is cumulative over time. It builds up. And so over the course of the last 5 years, you're talking a couple of $1 million that has been handed back to the taxpayer. And Concord wants to say that it's us here that is the problem. And I think this data kind of challenges that assumption. It really does say You
Yeah.
know, just if the state can just meet its obligations and leave us alone, we're doing fine, but they're not. And so what's happening is taxpayers are having to pick up the difference. And so anyway, these charts are intended to be talking points, to allow us to have basically the discussions I just had. So I don't know if anybody has any other thoughts, reactions?
Color wise, blue-green colorblind is going to be an issue probably because we've got blue and green lines right next to each other.
Yep.
So that's something I would point out. On chart number 3, using double y-axis is always going to be something that you have to struggle with a little bit. But I would say on the right hand axis, the staff budgeted FTEs, maybe we do 50 per line there, and so the lines goes up to 300 instead of 250, so that at least it aligns with something, because
Sure.
right now it's kind of hard to figure out where things align on the right axis. That's it for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been struggling with the lines too, because they blend together and it's like, you know that there's 2 lines there,
Yep.
but you can't see them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or I mean, even in the case of like number 2, you can see both lines, but it's just they might look like the same color to
Right.
somebody, and so
Good point.
which one's
Good point.
which.
I think this is all just like very illuminating, but number 4 in particular, looking at the increase in special education and healthcare feels
Yeah.
just critical in understanding.
And I like graphs because picture's worth 1,000 words.
Right.
That's so visual right there.
Mhm.
It's,
I think that this on number 1, the last sentence there, or I should say the second sentence, if HB 1300 had been in effect, that we would have been well positioned. I guess I have 2 thoughts. Would further highlighting that with yellow or something be like beneficial, because then it's not just like more words in a blurb that somebody might say, oh, well, it doesn't matter what that says because I'm going to go look at the graphic. And then would it be appropriate to add a comma and say, despite not receiving full adequacy aid from the
I
state?
just think we're like an asterisk or a footnote next to the
Yeah,
7.3% that explains that, because it does just jump out, and I feel like your explanation suddenly was like, okay, this makes sense to me. I don't know.
One of the challenges that we're going to have, and I just want to be honest with people, is the line between politicking and information sharing is going to be tight, and the more subjective way we present something, what we're trying to do is to say, can we give people just graphic information and let them draw their own conclusions?
Sure.
So hopefully we're not going to be having to point people to, we want it to be so visually obvious that, because one of the things I think, in fact, when in the meeting I was telling you about earlier, one of the things we talked a lot about is the decision to put the vote on the tax cap on the November ballot is very specifically chosen because you're engaging a demographic of voters that typically are not engaged in school district elections. So just to give you some statistical, like last year, we had a little over 1,000 voters in the school district election. They're expecting 4,000 to 5,000 voters in November. So you're talking 3,000 or 4,000 voters that did not vote in the school district election. So what you want to do is make sure the information you provide is just indisputable, factual,
Okay.
here you go kind of thing. And because they're probably, I hope people take the time to learn everything they can and know what's going on. But I think just quick reference things are what's going to be, hopefully it's going to drive things. So trying to keep our charts as clean and so that the chart itself tells a story. So where there aren't words associated with it, it's just here's the data. That's kind of where we're trying to get. But I do agree with you, the way we've written it here, this is, highlighting that statement is definitely valid.
Okay, so I would say yes, highlighting that statement, because I think in a place that really says we value local control, right? We have not had to have this, and under that local control, we have still, been fiscally responsible. And I think that while this is maybe a demographic that doesn't typically focus on that,
Yep.
to draw the eyes to, okay, but we all value local control, and look, we've
Yep.
been doing it. And sometimes, to be honest, in a lot of aspects, when you start to micromanage and put back people into a corner, that maybe they don't
Yeah.
they don't do that as much. They don't you know,
Something else is driving the discussion
Yes.
instead of
Versus-
actual,
responsibility towards the
Yeah.
community.
Well, there is an argument to be made that the tax cap will only cause people to go, oh, okay, that's my limit. I'll just go to that limit every year. And we don't do that. And I think that's what this point is, particularly the 23-24 year. You can see we could have gone 7.3% up. We didn't. We went up 5%. We still managed it pretty well. And I think that people need to realize that that's also a thing. And in fact, I think you're concerned about with what's happened to Franklin.
No, yeah.
Is what's driving it is just the cap is what drives the process, as opposed to let's actually do a needs-based budget and figure out what we really want to do.
It really does take a lot of decision making out of the picture, good decision making.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, I don't know what's happening in Franklin right now, but they're on a prayer. They
Mhm.
are on a prayer.
One thing I worry about, and I don't know that there's a way to address this, is someone going into it uninformed, and because you can't, I mean, what can you do? And saying, well, it looks like we've been going up with the same line anyway, so why not? I guess there's no problem just
Yep.
saying we should take the
Okay.
tax cap. And so I don't
Yeah.
know
Yep.
how to go about making sure. Again, it's probably like, how do you inform the uninformed that, right? Like, do we bang our head against a wall? Obviously not.
No, but I was thinking that's because there's almost something in the wording of Newmarket would have been well positioned to comply with both provisions that almost sounds like,
You can do it.
Why not do it anyway?
yes, I don't know. There's something about that language. I'm trying to, that,
Yep.
that could,
Yep.
if you're not paying attention, be like, oh, okay, so they can do it. So then let's do
Right.
it.
Let me take another look at that language, because I agree. That makes, I think you're right, because what we're trying to do is be transparent. We're trying to here's our history.
Yeah.
Yes.
Judge us on our history. But to say you could interpret it that way, you
Yeah.
could say, well, gee, hey, well, then let's just
Yeah.
go for it, because it seems to be working fine.
Right.
What's that?
Just thinking, I'll use small words so you'll be sure to understand.
But there is something, I was that language. I'm like, ooh,
Yes,
ah,
you have to have it in a very,
yeah. Yeah.
it has to be clear.
Had we been kneecapped like this, we would survive.
Very good.
I
Please don't.
suppose, obviously, there are other charts and graphs that we haven't produced, like what our tax rates have been over this time and what that has, and certainly one of the things we could do is we have managed to live under the tax cap, but here's what it's meant to our local taxes.
Yeah.
So it's still, if you truly value lowering your taxes, the tax cap may actually not produce the result you think. I mean, I think back to when SB2 was first passed into law 30 years ago, or actually more than that now. The logic in that was that the anti-tax groups were saying part of the problem is you have these long school district meetings that expect elderly people and other people who can't sit long times in gym benches, having to spend all day doing that, and they get discouraged from voting. If we change the system so that you can vote without having to spend the day at the town meeting, that will result in a different demographic of people coming out to vote. That has been completely not the case. What has happened in that system is everybody has a default budget. What that says is, at minimum, it's going up the default budget. So people feel like it's futile to take steps because it's in our case, the difference between a proposed budget, our default budget is $50,000 to $75,000, not a huge amount. And I think the promise that this new law was going to result in lower taxes didn't pan out. And it's similarly, I think there are people who think statewide tax cap, everybody does it, it's going to eventually result in lower local property tax. But in the end, it's coming down to, you gotta pay it somewhere, and it's gonna come from somewhere, and property taxes are continue to go up until the state takes a look at how it's paying for it. And I think that's ultimately the issue.
It's just economically realistic that your tax caps are gonna go up, your taxes are gonna go up every single year regardless. But what's gonna happen is your services are gonna decline.
Mm.
So it's,
I think the other thing that's challenging about this being on the November ballot is it's easy on the budget ballot to be able to engage people and say, this is about the school budget.
right,
In November, I mean, it is about the school budget, but this is a tax cap.
yeah,
So how do you say to someone, hey, are you interested in learning about the tax cap bill?
yeah.
Mhm.
Because most people are probably like, what do
Yeah.
we care?
Yeah, I'm here to vote for
Yeah.
a candidate for governor, and
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
while I'm here.
Oh,
and I-
there's a cap. Okay, that's probably a good thing. Yeah.
And I know, I kind of snickered the other day with my 60% versus the 3/5, but the,
3/5 and 60% of the same thing.
I learned that the other
Yeah.
day.
but
Thank you
anyway,
much.
and I was, doing the math and the fractions in fourth grade, but anyway, the bill itself is written such that you have to have a 60% vote. No, maybe it's both 3/5. It's both, but at some point in the discussion of it, they intertwine the 60% with the 3/5. So if you're not mathematically astute,
Right. You can be confused by it.
you can be confused. And I don't know if that's deliberate or because might say, oh, well, just 3/5 to override it. Well, that's not, it's not the 66% that the supermajority. No problem, we'll get, but it's 60% either way.
Yeah.
So the language, that's where that came from.
Yeah.
In my naivety when I brought it up or whatever. But it's just the whole thing and the wording of that entire article, how it has to be worded is so confusing. It's and adding the SAU 6% in there is, and I don't know if I can. I'll just give them. I did a comparison between. I looked up the average SAU admin for mid-sized administration is about between 7 and 900,000 for a small one. The parallel educational system that we are supporting also with our taxes, in their last audit, their administrative fee was $2,868.
You're talking about the EFA management.
EFA management.
And what's the salary of the
The
person who's,
executive director with a staff of 15 makes with salary and benefits 223,000.
that would be the highest paid superintendent in the state of New Hampshire by far? Well, no, I take
But
that
now
back.
they're
The former superintendent, Oyster River, used to be paid more than that, but that's it.
but now we got another one.
Yeah, I don't know what she's being paid, though. I don't.
The up in Claremont. But the other one, the other issue, the other thing to watch out for too with some of these discussions is now they're claiming that if the voucher numbers were a school district, they'd be the largest in the state. That's a new talking point.
He's annoying.
The new numbers for vouchers just came out,
Yeah.
12,500.
Mhm.
And they're saying if that were an SAU, if that was a school district, that would be the largest school district in the state. So that's how they're justifying.
Except that they are not responsible for the management of any aspect of their education other
Right.
than handing them a check for 4,100 or whatever the dollars are. And they don't have to do anything with
Right.
regards to meeting standards or anything. So it's a financial management
Yeah.
job. That's what it is.
It-
There is no
and-
educational leadership there.
And the latest bill that just came out is $60 million. Just last week, $60 million for vouchers.
I think the point in
Yeah, what
in
I'm,
that,
yeah.
in that I think in
Kathy,
saying
pull your mic closer to you, please.
in making those comparisons is that most people aren't educated in the sense
Right.
of that is not an educational position.
Yeah.
So it's, can seem to, at first look like, oh, wow, like,
Yeah.
that is a lot of
So,
students.
so I just wanted to bring that up
Yep.
because
Yeah.
that's my
So to bring closure to this,
Yeah.
information, obviously I'm going to make some, I'm going to work with Brian to refine this. I like the suggestions about the color combinations and taking a look at some of the language stuff. We'll make those adjustments. I would like to share it with the budget committee on the 31st. If the board is okay with that, with trusting me to make those edits.
Yep.
Very good. I like this.
Good. I picture saying more than 1,000 words.
Yeah.
All right, next up is we did have our joint town council school board meeting. So Todd was just going to give a debrief.
Well, it's going to give you an opportunity to debrief. I mean, obviously you talked about a lot of stuff. Just didn't know if there were any things that resonated with people. There was a conversation about possibly having another meeting in April and how, whether we would host it or not. Didn't know if anybody had any thoughts on that.
I think we should offer to host it. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes sense to me.
I think that, yeah, personally, I mean, we can, if anybody feels opposed, but I think we all really appreciated the conversation that was happening, the back and forth dialogue, the fact that it felt really like a collaborative.
I had a moment where I'm
discussion.
like, this is what government,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
what it should
yeah.
be, you know, like it felt really good.
And yeah,
And that gentleman that spoke at the end saying they've been waiting 20 years for this.
yeah.
Could I, if we do, I might be jumping ahead, but if we do meet in April, could we plan on having something on our board agenda ahead of time around, I just would, I love the concept of discussing food security. And I guess I know that, and 68 hours of hunger, I know that Newmarket schools are doing a lot to address that. And it might be helpful to just share some of that out to the board and to anyone watching so that before we meet, we can come maybe prepared for if that's our next one of our next agenda items.
Definitely.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I actually, one of the things that's happened historically, we do have a new district social worker. We just hired Lindsay Jordan, lovely person. She's going to be great. But Laura Youngberg, who'd been our social worker for 4 or 5 years before that, left to take another job. Moved out Midwest. She's not leaving because she wasn't happy. In fact, she loved working here. But her family is out there. But the role that position has played has been to try to link together a lot of things. In fact, Laura initiated, and actually with Caitlin Skeena, another person who worked for us back in the day, initiated sort of a community roundtable with all the different, church leaders, people, and to allow the sharing of that information. And it's become a monthly thing. So they meet regularly to talk about who has what and what needs. And because one of the things that we discovered very early on was we had a lot of generous people in town, but if everybody wanted to give us pencils or everybody wanted to give us coats, then we had a lot of coats and pencils, but we didn't necessarily meet the needs of the hungry kids, or we didn't meet the needs of the kids who need winter boots or whatever. And so coordinating that effort was particularly important. So anyway, my point being, our social worker she's brand new, so she's learning the ropes, but I guarantee by April, she'll be ready to talk to you about all kinds of
Love
wonderful
that.
stuff.
Great,
Yeah,
thanks.
good.
And that's just a great opportunity for me to remind the board that if there is an item that you would like to see on the agenda, that you can let me know, and then in agenda setting that Todd and I can add that.
And we're knee deep budget, like
Yep.
closer to April makes a lot more sense, just while it was on my mind
No, it's
since
great.
our last meeting.
Anything else about meeting? Again, I do think it felt
Yeah, I liked it.
really good. And I think that members of the town council, I think a lot of them felt similarly.
A lot of people care deeply about the welfare of this town, and that's really nice.
All right.
Updated CIP.
Yep. Updated CIP plan.
Yeah, so every year is just to give you the overview, the documents in your packet. So please follow along at your leisure. Every year since 2024, when we first adopted our capital improvement plan, we go through a process internally to review and to update it and make sure we have accurate numbers and so forth. Lonnie, Dave Riley, Bryant Lee, and myself met earlier this week to review the document and to look at the updates that we've made. Some things to just be aware of as we sort of think about this. The intent of this capital improvement plan was to map out for us what our basically capital maintenance obligations were going to be over the next 20 years. And so what we have endeavored to do was to map out approximately what the cost would be in any given year so that we can make sure money is being set aside in reserve trust funds so that it's there when the time comes. As you all know, this past year, we had intended to take 169 or 167,000, excuse me, out of our capital reserve funds for school improvement. But because we came in at a much more much better spot budgetarily, we were able to not do that. So what that does is it means we can now account for it. We didn't take that money out. That money carries forward, and then we kind of move forward. And so there's an updating of that. So the spreadsheets that are in here have been updated to show you what's already been done. So obviously the columns, when you look at the end of it, the columns that show you the actuals. So like, for example, you'll see against 24, 25, 25, 26, there's an A. That means we did all that. So that all of those things are calculated in and they've been resolved. And then we're trying to map out down the road, what are the next things we're going to see. There really isn't a lot of significant change in this. For the most part, the stuff we've mapped out remains roughly in the same place. I think where you'll notice the biggest difference is when you get to the bottom, where the Appendix E, where it kind of shows you trust fund balances. That's where we're starting to see things change. So obviously we didn't take as much out in 25, 26 as we're going to have. So in 26, 27, we'll have more. Clearly for 26, 27 as a board, you made a decision to reduce the warrant article down to 100,000 because we wanted to kind of balance the potential needs of the district with not, but wanting to keep the commitment to the capital improvement plan. So we didn't put as much in for 26, 27 as we have historically. We had decided early on when we built this program that in 27, 28, which will be the one coming up, we were going to start increasing the amount that we were asking. However, clearly that's going to be a board discussion when we develop the budget, but clearly the bottom line of how much money do we have available and what are our needs is being mapped out. And you can see we're in a pretty good place with regards to the plan. The reason I'm presenting this to you tonight, more than yes, it's something that for the board to be able to consider and hopefully approve, but we are tied to the town capital improvement committee, and as Gary, so Gary's the representative. No. So Gary,
Not with me.
anyway. So Gary starts meeting with the town capital improvement committee on the 27th, I believe it is. Tomorrow, I need to share with Bart McDonough the information he is requesting from the town. Basically, just so you know, the forms, which Gary will be very familiar with soon, are different than what we have here, but all of the data that is in those forms is taken directly from this plan. So basically what the town asks us to do is to share with them a 6-year look ahead of to what we're planning and what we anticipate major capital projects that are going to involve trust funds. And that's basically what they're looking at. And ultimately that committee has to approve whatever our plan is. Now, the board, because you are a separate entity, can always say thank you, but no thank you. You guys get to make your own decisions, but ultimately the capital improvement committee.
I think we recommend or not recommend. Is that, if I recall?
Yeah.
I don't think we approve. Yeah.
Yeah, recommend or not recommend, but it's
It's been a year, so I don't recall.
This
exactly, but I think
group,
it's that, yeah.
this group gets to decide
Yeah.
what we do. That's what I'm trying to say. But we contribute to that so that the town can get a good sense of it. And obviously, we just talked about the joint meeting, and a lot of it was focused on capital projects. And so it's particularly important that we have a good handle on town potential investments in our own. One thing that I did want to mention, Obviously, we're doing the Carpenter property study, feasibility study, and we will have that hopefully in another week. We'll get the final report, and in September, I'll share it with you, or the engineer will. There is a mention in this report, and it's very brief, that simply says we are looking at athletic facilities and a potential solar array on the on school property. That's it. There's no commitments to it. There's no financing of it. There's no dollars in here that in any way reflects it. It simply acknowledges that it's something we're thinking about.
And if anyone's interested, I think the CIP is required by law for us to receive and use impact fees.
Yes.
Yep. I mean, I said this when I met with Brian, Dave, and Todd. It's I mean, I applaud the committee for creating this, because I just think it gives this sense of security that not only are we continuing with maintenance and the forethought of making sure, but then also putting the district in a position where if something unexpected that isn't on this list, catastrophic, happened, that we would be in a position to
Right.
Yeah, it's something that's so obvious, but it was kind of revolutionary when
Yeah.
they came up with the idea and did it. It was
It
like,
is.
oh my gosh,
It's fast.
a budget. Wow, this is amazing. I don't know why no one ever thought of doing it before.
I find it
I
fascinating.
think we decided to do it with 20-year look ahead too. So I
Yeah.
think that was something that was unusual. The town has typically stayed in that 5-6 year window. And for us, particularly when we had just invested 39 million in our buildings,
Yeah.
it really required a longer look ahead
Right.
to really wrap our head around it.
It's very proactive. I think
Yeah,
it's great.
and I
Yeah.
think that when there's a lot of times where we talk about that bond payment, that
Yeah,
bond debt
right.
in a like sort of a wonderful cloud that gave us what we needed.
Yep.
But here it just shows the forethought and the proactivity of making sure that we do everything that we can
Right.
to keep that $39 million
Right.
project up to it's
Yes.
what it needs to be.
And actually, you reminded me of one other piece I always like to remind people of. The operating budget includes $100,000 for what we call the short-term smaller projects.
Mhm.
So those are the things that Dave Riley and his team can do.
Mhm.
Things that like replacing faucets, HVAC maintenance, those kind of things that had historically been outsourced to contractors. And so every year that's in the operating budget. And Dave is incredibly judicious in the use of it because he never uses it all and usually end up returning some of it. But that's one piece. And then the bigger piece, which is the long-term thinking, is the stuff that's long-term that we are thinking capital funds, cap reserve funds for. So it's just important that we have both of those things going on. And obviously, if we're able to tackle something that's in the bigger plan using the short-term funds, great. That's one less thing we have to carry down the road and reduce our liability.
Gary, can you just remind me what are the CIP dates? I had the 27th.
The 27th, the 2nd, and the 9th, with potentially the 10th as a addition. I think.
Thanks. All right.
It's also informative.
I know. Any other questions, comments, thoughts on?
It's always good to have a little bit of thinking ahead.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, 17 more years.
Yeah,
16
is that
more.
what it is to pay off the bond?
Oh no.
No, the plan
No.
goes forward until 2043. The bond
Yeah.
2046. So it's 20 more years.
That-
on the bond.
Well, let's see.
All right. Moving on to school events, I do want to just mention the town event that happened a couple weeks ago of the backyard bash and what a success it was. And I've already expressed my gratitude towards the board for my plan, but I just wanted to say thank you again. 'Cause that
I
was-
think of it every time I sit down.
Is your foot here?
Still hurting?
It's getting better.
Actually, at the backyard bash, I was able to meet Sarah. Dave introduced me to Sarah,
Yes.
who gave us our new chairs
Yeah.
through like, and so I just feel like there's these moments,
Yeah.
right? Like that you want to have more often where you're getting to meet, you know, the people, the wonderful people who work here, who we're hearing about all the time.
And I did happen to see actually Amy. We were picking up dogs at the same time, and Amy from the rec, and it was her on the last day of the rec camp, and she said, you know, like finally everything's kind of to an end, and we just had a quick talk about the backyard bash, and she said, you know, was talking about all that goes into it and the stress and whatnot, and I said, from you know an outsider perspective, everything was so fluid. People got us a tent. It was just, you know,
Yeah.
the work that goes into it.
Right.
It seemed effort.
Yeah.
So obviously, clearly it was so much effort. But again, I think it went really well, and thank you to the board. We're gonna have alumni come back this time. So school events coming up on August 23rd is the PTA meetup for kindergarten students at the NES playground. I know that they're all over Facebook and email blasts and whatnot, so that incoming kindergarten families can get more details on that. It is a great event where they give the incoming kindergartners wristbands that are colors that align with other kids that would be in their classroom. I'm not sure if it's exactly done the same way, but I know that that was really helpful if for children to meet a buddy so they'd have a familiar face on the first day. The 24th, first day back for staff, as Todd already mentioned. I will be filling in for Gary to give some opening remarks because he loves the spotlight. I wanted to turn. The 26th is the 6th and 9th grade orientations. So those kiddos will get an opportunity to kind of learn the ropes. I know my soon to be 6th grader is excited. I'm not, yeah, excited, I think is the word. And I just have to give a quick shout out that Allison Boudreau has been nothing short of amazing of reaching out to families and reminding them, you know, when it is, and you know, there is bus transportation available and whatnot. Just keeping on top of it. You know, when it's summer hours. August 26th is also kindergarten and first grade open houses. The 27th is the first day of school for students with their slightly new start time at NES. September 4th and September 7th, no school in honor of Labor Day. Am I missing anything? Anybody notes of anything?
Sure, there's some athletic events that will be taking place somewhere in there, but I haven't actually got the schedule sorted out yet. So yes.
Yeah, and then our you know, our first board meeting in September, I believe we'll have our new
Yes, the new student rep.
student representative. That's kind of exciting, and I won't cross it off.
And just to, while I'm thinking of it, remember, once we hit September, we move the meetings back out into the cafeteria. Unless we are in the middle of a heat wave, and I might beg to put back in to get us the air conditioning.
All right. No donations to acknowledge or approve at this time. So moving on to action items, I will take a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting on August 6th, 2026.
So moved.
Seconded.
Good, no. That's
All
almost
those
like
in
a-
favor?
Aye.
It's
Just a,
Any
funny
note?
how does that-
yeah, it's just a friendly amendment.
Yep.
As far as the non-public, I think we need to give a reason and of why. So it'd be to discuss a personnel matter that may embarrass that member of the public or
Okay.
yeah, or
We
I
see,
think it's just discuss a personnel matter, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, see.
Oh, actually, it's So we talked about going through first C, and then underneath it says accepted motion to enter non-public for D.
No, we have,
It was C.
it was,
Yep.
It was definitely C, I remember. But I just noticed that type.
Okay.
we'll fix it.
Thank you. All right. Who is the manifest?
Oh, I do.
I don't think we voted yet, did we? Oh, you did.
Oh,
You're right.
I did.
No, you're totally right.
Yeah.
My fault.
Thank you.
Good at small numbers. I make a motion to approve the manifest for 8/14 in the total amount of $329,092.34.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I said it right?
Right. Next up, is the request to approve policy JICK first and
I
second.
move that we approve JICK.
Thank you.
Do,
Second.
do we need to, is there a policy about a first and second read we need to waive?
Yeah, I believe it's K, hold on.
I should look that up. Apologies.
No, it's 16 clicks later, I'll be there.
I was gonna try to look for it, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna pretend I'm looking because I have no idea
It's a,
where I'd find it at this point. I'm like, it would take me forever.
2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. I can find it. I looked it up. If you want to move on to something else while I search, you're welcome to.
Okay. Cool.
Do you want to rescind your motion?
I rescind my motion.
Sorry.
Well, wait on the policy to waive on
We waive policy.
approval. So while Todd is looking for that, I would take a motion to approve the 2026-2027 junior, senior high school and the Newmarket Elementary School student handbooks as presented.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
BG.
Thank you. BG.
EG.
Dr.
It's good to
Cornett.
have somebody who knows what they're doing here.
Policy appear next to each other.
I move we waive policy BG and approve policy JICK.
Seconded.
Waive.
Or so we can approve policy G. Fine. So we can and approve it because
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And to clarify, that was to waive policy BG to be able to approve.
waive it and approve. I lumped them together.
Okay,
one.
thank you.
Efficiency.
All right. Seek a motion to approve the updated CIP plan.
I will move that we approve the updated CIP.
And I will second it.
Oh, redundant, right?
Plan.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries to approve the CIP.
Plan to have a plan. I mean, it's a, you could,
It's like chai tea, right?
Or
Yeah.
ATM machines.
Yes. LCD display.
See, we have fun.
You're in the board. Have fun.
And we do have a request for a leave of absence extension.
yeah, if I could just speak to it without, I'm not going to get into specific details, but it's a situation we were aware of. Andy's fully aware of. We can manage it. It's a staff member you've already approved for a leave starting in November, simply asking to extend it to the end of the year.
I so move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Can we go back up?
Yep.
We missed the handbooks.
No, we did.
No,
but you
we
were
didn't.
looking up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're looking
Yeah,
at
I
B.
missed it.
You were in the BGs and we were doing.
Okay, I was lost and Andy was saving me. Andy was helping find me.
You were looking for a few musicals.
and we already did the friendly reminder about our next meeting will be in the CAF, same time. We do have a need for to enter non-public to under RSA 91-A3 to C to discuss a
It's matters that would, it's discussed
Student matter.
publicly with, yes, it's a student. Yes.
So
roll call.
So second. Roll call.
you must have been through this before.
Twice.
Is
Roll call.
Yeah.
It's Kathy. Second me.
I'm glad I didn't have to
Right.
say all the RSAs.
Board Member Saliga,
Aye.
Board Member Ms. Belden,
Aye.
Board Member Boyd,
Aye.
Board Member Swanson.
Aye.
Board Member Chair Stebbins, aye. With that, we are going into non-public at 7:15 in Channel 8. We will not be